Well, I'm here today to try to urge the judges and politicians and the people of Los Angeles to get attorney Richard I. Fine out of jail. He was put in there unlawfully, and he's in there with no bail and no hearing date, so he's virtually in there with no ability to get out. Without a hearing date and without bail, he could die of old age in there. I mean, we just don't know.
Relentless, probing, fearless. This is Emmy Award-winning Full Disclosure with Leslie Dutton, bringing you the truth by revealing the news behind the news.
Hello, I'm Leslie Dutton. Today on Full Disclosure, we're bringing you the news behind the news in this part 2 of our interview with disbarred attorney Richard I. Fine and with commentary from civic activist David R. Hernandez. Fathers' rights activist Fred Sotille succinctly describes the circumstances that lead to the jailing of Mr. Fine, who's being incarcerated for an indefinite period of time. Why do you believe he's in there?
Well, he's in there because of retribution. He has found the judges in Los Angeles here guilty of taking a $46,000 a year bribe over the past many years, and he's exposed that fact, and the judges have admitted this by jamming a bill through the legislature a few weeks ago in a sneaky midnight session thing during the financial crisis, releasing them from responsibility for this crime and granting them immunity from it. He's decided to continue to educate the public on the fact that this is going on, and the only way they could really shut him down was by putting him in jail and throwing away the key, and that's just what they've done.
We had the opportunity to talk to Mr. Fine on the phone when he made a 911 call to us from his cell in the Los Angeles County Central Men's Jail. We asked him to give us his explanation for his predicament in the county jail.
The county is the one that's given the illegal payments to the judges, so they're the ones that are on the hook for having done the illegal payments to the judges. The judges are the ones that took the illegal payments, and my contempt order is based upon the fact that the Judge Yaffe, who's the one that issued the contempt order, is the one that took the illegal payments. So what they're trying to do, in my opinion, is they're now trying to block me from filing any type of a writ of habeas corpus in the federal court, because as soon as this writ would get to the federal court, this contempt order would be knocked out based upon the fact that a criticized judge cannot sit on a contempt hearing. And the case for that is Mayberry versus Pennsylvania, which is the United States Supreme Court case.
Mr. Fine is working hard to get a writ of habeas corpus in federal court, which would get him released and allow him to make his case before the federal court. He knows he can't get a fair hearing before any state judge. And that's where he intends to carry the fight, in federal court. He explained his strategy. We interviewed him in our studio the day before his arrest.
I filed a complaint with the U.S. Department of Justice because they violated the federal law of what is called the implied or intangible right to honest services, and that's 18 United States Code Section 1346, because the case law that holds is that when a judge takes money from an individual or even a government and then does not disclose it, he violates that particular code section. And he violates it by the fact that he is not giving honest services to his employer, which is we the people or the state of California. And he's not giving those honest services because we're paying him a salary to go in and do his job as a judge. And what the judge is doing is the judge is taking money from another source to do the job, and the judge is not disclosing it because none of these judges have disclosed this money on what is called their Form 700 Statement of Economic Interest, which requires them to disclose any income from another source.
According to the California Political Reform Act, judges are required to file Form number 700, which is a statement of economic interest, to disclose any income they receive. To date, none of the Superior Court judges in Los Angeles have filed this disclosure.
And I had called the Political Reform Commission, Fair Commission on Political Reform, and I asked them about this, and they said, no, nobody's disclosing it. And then I checked on these judges. I checked on Yaffe. He didn't disclose it. And I checked on, if you look on the Form 700 on any of the 3 Supreme Court justices, they didn't disclose it. So none of these judges are disclosing this income. So consequently, they're violating the Political Reform Act. They're violating the federal law of the implied or intangible right to honest services.
Civic activist David Hernandez lost a recent case in the Superior Court. He explains how the payment from the county to the judges creates at least a perception of bias, if not outright prejudice, in the courtroom.
If I were to make a donation to a jurist based on what I believe was his great performance, whether I asked anything from him or not, if one of my relatives brought a case into that court, he would have to recuse himself. What's the difference between receiving a bonus from the County of Los Angeles and then sitting and making decisions and rulings from the very entity that is giving you the money? So what it does is it really creates the perception that there could be an unbiased or a lack of unbiased ruling on the part of the judge.
Yeah. They're violators. They're violating a criminal law. Now, that is a reason why the legislature gave them immunity. It's the reason why the Judicial Council wrote that immunity in, because the Judicial Council knew that they couldn't save them from the federal law violations, but at least they could save them from the state law violations.
The allegation that our judges are taking bribes is a dangerous accusation. Most people want to believe that there is one branch of government that is supposed to be free and above political influence. It is disheartening to hear that it is biased and tainted by greed.
The cost to our system of governance by allowing anything to create that perception of a biased or of a partial jurist is far greater than any one particular case or any one particular issue. The issue that we dealt with was, like I said, specifically a constitutional issue. The ramifications of that were that we just went through an election cycle where you have city council members that are now in office for another 4 years based on the decision that was made that day in Judge Yaffe's court. So the ramifications of that, it's kind of like the domino effect, is that where does that one decision lead? And then you look at where the direction the city is going in. And that's why anything that causes that lack of faith and confidence in our system needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed very quickly.
For the news behind the news, wherever and whenever you want it, go to fulldisclosure.net and get programs on topics affecting you, weekly updates and alerts on hot topics, video streaming of Full Disclosure episodes. It's award-winning, hard-hitting, corruption-fighting news coverage. And it's only available at fulldisclosure.net. Fulldisclosure.net, the news behind the news.